No joke, I've run sound for a long time, and this is what ruins 99% of church mixes. It may seem really simple, but everyone misses it, that the strumming pattern and how hard you strum an acoustic guitar is what matters way more than different chord shapes you may play. Honestly, there's not much more that really takes me out of the feel of a mix than an acoustic that is just poking out the whole time and playing in a way that doesn't complement the rest of the band. 99% of the time in churches, I feel like the acoustic is the driving instrument in the band, often because the worship leader is probably the most talented musician on the stage. But in my opinion, as a front of house person, the acoustic doesn't need to be the sonic driver of many mixes, unless we're talking like Americana or country. Because what happens is people try to make the acoustic drive a certain style of music that it just doesn't work in. The modern worship sound that so many churches go for these days, that's completely fine to me. But the acoustic isn't the driving factor of that. It doesn't have the sonic characteristics to carry that kind of mix or just build that kind of sound in general. So in this video, I want to show you a few different things that you can do to make your acoustic sit in a mix better. It makes it easier for your congregation to sing, and it complements the rest of the band rather than being the thing that's trying to drag the mix along, and it just doesn't work. So like I played a minute ago, that strumming pattern, the typical if you notice, most worship leaders and guitar players in church, that's the strumming pattern they go for no matter the song. And it rarely works in any song, in my opinion. And so what I think we need to do is, rather than think, what's a cool strumming pattern? What's something cool that I can, this complicated rhythm that I can play? What complements the drums? What complements the vocal? What makes it easy to engage with? And, I'm a huge fan of Shane and Shane and older Phil Wickham stuff, where they did a lot of acoustic driven music. And the thing that I've really taken from that over the years is they rarely do anything other than an 8th note, a 16th note, and then Shane and Shane will do those 172nd, things that they do I can't do. But with those kinds of songs, the acoustic becomes the shaker and it becomes the tambourine. It's not the thing that really builds the chord structure of the song. And I think that's the biggest takeaway, is that it becomes the rhythmic driver alongside the drums. Because a lot of times in church, you don't have a percussion section. You don't have a percussion player like you may in some bigger bands. And so the acoustic takes the place of that or the. That makes sense? And so say we're starting, the song we're going to go over in just a second, Our Father. The way that I would hear it played so often is they would come in and, Our Father in heaven. And it would become this overly busy thing, because it's fine to sing that with yourself and play that. But when you add in all the other elements of the band, it doesn't make much sense. And so if we listen to all the other parts being played by the guitar or the piano, the drums especially, you kind of realize it becomes okay to just go. And what happens is that becomes the anchor for the crowd to sing with. They don't realize it. They don't acknowledge it. No one's paying any attention to the acoustic. But it suddenly becomes their click track. And I think that's what the acoustic oftentimes needs to be, is the crowd's click track. And another thing, if you notice, whenever you get to the end of a phrase, the band so often, this goes for every instrument on stage, wants to stop playing. They want to let it, kind of ambience out, whatever. What happens from the crowd side is it sounds like it dies. It sounds like everyone just quit playing. It doesn't sound like this ambient moment. It sounds like everyone just quit playing. And so even for the acoustic to be that thing that continues to drive the song forward in a simple way, that's huge. That's huge for the energy of the mix. That's huge for the just the carrying the song. So even in those areas, those sections of songs, think about ways that you can keep the energy up. Not necessarily that it's this big energetic moment, but think about ways that you can propel the song forward. You know, I say it to our team often. The crowd doesn't feel those ambience moments the same as we do on stage with our in-ears in, because we're the ones playing it. We're feeling the instruments. We're feeling the music that we're playing. A lot of times, the crowd will disengage if they don't have an anchor. And I always see the acoustic as that anchor that continues the tempo. It keeps the energy high. So another thing about the quarter, eighth note kind of just driving forward, another issue I see with that is that the acoustic player will a lot of times try to accent with the drums, and they're not tight with the drums. And so it just sounds like a mess. It sounds like a jumbled mess. And so I really, really, really like when an acoustic player never accents. Like, and if they're in the mix with a full band, I really like that sound that just kind of keeps this moving, and not something that's going to fight against the drums for dominance in, you know, the rhythm, the rhythmic sound of the song. You know, if the drums are playing, you know, you don't want to be going. And that's what so many will do. So instead, let's think about keeping everything very even. Play like you're being compressed. That's a huge thing. Like, learn about compression and play like you're being compressed. So let's jump to the board, and I want to show you a few examples of this, and I hope that this can make more sense in context. I hope that this gives you something that you can actionably do next Sunday. Like, this is something that you can say, oh, our mix worked so much more. The songs worked so much more because we weren't fighting those transients in the acoustic. You don't want to have to fight against those. You don't want those transients to hit with the drums. You want to complement. All right, so here's how I can apply some of these principles that we're talking about with parts and, you know, playing style to the real world. This is how I would play this song if I were on stage. I've overdubbed the acoustic on this mix, and this is what I would do if I was on stage. So in particular, we're going to start on verse 1, and verse 1 of this song has a little bit more of a sparse drum arrangement. There's not a ton going on, and I wanted to accent the quiet parts. I'm not just going to hit when the kick and snare do. I'm not going to accent there. I'm not going to add to that noise. I want to do things between those spots that will carry the song, move it along in a way that isn't just more of the same, if that makes sense. So this is it. I'm going to turn the acoustic a little too loud so you can hear. Alright, so without, sounds a little dead and boring. And if you notice, I didn't stop in the chorus. I didn't stop where things will just die. Because if that stopped, then it's just a bunch of whole notes on the stage, all playing at the same time, stopping at the same time, and moving at the same time. I really wanted to just have something that keeps the crowd singing on tempo, makes it easy to engage with. So just because the chorus may slow down, go a little bit more ambient, you can play a little softer. You can change your chord structure. You can pick lighter. You can not play every single string on the guitar at once. But the point is, I really view this kind of thing, the acoustic in this spot is purely for rhythm. It's not people think the acoustic is much bigger in a mix than it is, and it's just not. And so for this, we're really focusing on the fact that we can add to that rhythm and keep the song moving forward and not feel like the chorus just dies all of a sudden. So let's just jump way ahead in the song and see what happens later.
Right here, right now. For yours is the kingdom, and yours is the power. Yours is the glory forever. Amen. And yours is the kingdom, yours is the power. Yours is the glory forever. Amen. And yours is the kingdom, yours is the power. Yours is.
So what you notice there, I'm not staying on the just what is that is that quarter note? But we're double timing there, and what this becomes is the shaker or the tambourine that's really keeping the song moving along because the drums are doing that chun 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 ka chun chun. They're on that, but something needs to keep going dun, 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 and really keep the song propelling forward. Notice how it dies as soon as I mute it.
Right here, right now.
Here's that.
For yours is the kingdom, and yours is the power. Yours is the glory forever. Amen. And yours is the kingdom, yours is the power. Yours.
It's subtle, but to me, it's this underlying energy that if it's gone, you notice it more if it's there. Does that make sense? I really just want this to be something that is continually propelling the song forward because so often everyone in the band wants to be just have the biggest sound, and people think that the biggest sound involves playing gigantic open chords or holding things really long and that. But does that make sense? But we need to think more of it as a unit and how each can complement the other to build the entire picture. And that's what we're doing with the acoustic. The acoustic doesn't need to be the sonic bigness in a mix unless it's an acoustic mix. In a mix like this, the acoustic is probably the smallest sounding thing, and most worship leaders, most guitar players, I feel like don't realize that. And I didn't realize it until I started running sound, and I realized how honestly insignificant the acoustic is when it comes to the chord structure of a mix. That its real strength is adding to the feel of it by the rhythm and the different strumming patterns you can have that complement the drums. They don't build it out themselves. They complement the drums. And I think that's the biggest takeaway from this. That is what I want you to get from this video. Listen to what the drums are doing and do something that works with that. So I hope this is helpful. Again, if you're a sound person, you're a worship leader, and you want to steal my effects settings, they're in the description below. They're totally free, 40 different Behringer effects settings. I hope you enjoy those. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next one.